So thank you all for coming. I just recognized that my mic was muted, so I'm going to say that intro one more time. For those you don't know me, I'm Jamal Maxim. I'm an Igniter of Champion Leaders. I help the teachers make the shift out of the classroom into the principal's office and answer the calling to leadership. Yes, leadership is a calling. And as a kingdom focused educator, I recognize that leadership is a calling just like it is a career choice. Yes, there's a bump in pay when you step into leadership, but more than that, it is the opportunity to fulfill purposes and destiny. And so tonight, we're going to talk about what's leading you. Because one of the things that I recognize is that, of course, for one of the districts in my area, it's spring break. But for some of the surrounding districts, their spring break was last week. So some of my friends may be on spring break right now. Some may be on spring break, just returning from spring break. Either way, it is testing season. We know it's testing season in my former district. We tried to finish up prior to spring break, so you may have just wrapped up testing or maybe just beginning state testing. It is that time of the year when as a school leader you're trying to make sure all the students get tested and then trying to make sure all the teachers get evaluated while at the same time you're being evaluated yourself. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is what is leading you, because a lot of times there's a heavy emphasis on state testing, standardized testing, progress monitoring, and progress monitoring tools. And we hear this phrase all the time about being data driven. And so I want to ask you, what's leading you? What is it that's leading you as you are being a person of influence and leading in your school building? Because remember, leadership is influencing people to take action. And so you can be regardless of the position you are in, you have opportunities to be a person of influence. So let's get into it. I already talked about how it's testing season. And I would tell you it's testing season in more than one way. You know, we've been tested with everything that's been going on with all the challenges in education. But we're going to talk about the regular test right now. But for those of you who may be feeling the weight of the test of the past couple of years, how your resolve as an educator has been tested, your faith as an educator has been tested, I want to tell you that you are okay and you are doing okay. So don't let someone's opinion, someone's perspective, someone's you should have cause you to think or feel like you're not doing okay. You have been enduring, we all have as educators, enduring an extreme amount of unprecedented testing. And so you are okay. And even though there's a lot of shifts and transition going on, recognize that you are still good as long as you focus on what God is saying to you and focus on your assignment as an educator. Okay, so let's jump into it. And I'm going to just tell you the truth. A lot of times as educators, we do not like pausing instruction to ensure that everyone is tested, but we do it because a lot of times, and as you know, being an educator, the standardized testing can almost be an interruption to the instruction. You know, the schedule is changed and we have to accommodate all of these different things. We have to accommodate students that come late because they can't enter into the testing environment. We have to package it, make sure it's uploaded, have the right technology set up. There are a lot of things we have to do. And then afterwards, we have so many days from makeup tests where we have to make sure kids are at school to get these tests done. And it causes an interruption in instruction, which we don't like as an educator. I know I didn't like it as a teacher, as a testing coordinator, or as a school principal, but we do it because we have to. Now, after the tests are given, you all know it can be challenging and it can take a lot of effort to get the students to refocus on the day-to-day instructional activities. Because unfortunately, some kids think that once testing is over, school is over. And let me say it this way. I was very intentional when I was leading a school to make sure we didn't overemphasize the standardized testing environment in terms of the test being the end all be all, so that once the test was over, the students recognize that that's just a part of what we do, but we're still here to handle business. So I encourage you to take that approach as well, because if not, if you heavily focus on the state test, then once that's over, once the makeups are done, students will disengage and think the school year is over, when it's not true. That is not true. The school year is not over just because you're done with the state test. Because I'm going to tell you, assessment, as we all know, is just part of the educational process. It is not the totality. It's just a portion of it. And that there are a variety of ways to assess student mastery. We all know this, but here's the thing. Right now, and for a long time in education, there has been a heavy focus on collecting data. We have become data junkies, where we're collecting data and creating data walls, which are good, by the way, and doing all of these different things and feeling like we're truly engaging in education simply because we're collecting a lot of data. But I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask you to stop and think about something. What are you going to do with the data that you're collecting? And when does it become useless or too much? What are you going to do with it? Because a lot of times we're collecting data for the sake of collecting data. We're turning in and submitting data simply because district, central office asked for it. But what are you going to do with it? And when is enough enough, and when is too much too much? And so I'm going to talk about it because a lot of us feel this and may be thinking this, but not saying it. But I'm going to say it so that you can feel free to say it and then move and have some action about it. And here it is. If we spend more time collecting data than engaging students in the lessons and in the material they have to master, the instructional process is out of alignment, period. If most of your time is spent collecting data, whether it's through the progress monitoring or the state testing, or if you're testing too much or in the classroom, if you're doing all of those things and that adds up to be a greater percentage than you're actually delivering the instruction, or kids are demonstrating mastery in other ways, or the kids are engaging with the material, then your instructional process, your systems are out of alignment. Because assessment is part of it, just to make sure that they are mastering, and it helps you determine if you need to reteach or what interventions academically or behaviorally need to happen. But if that's the majority of what's going on in the school building, then your school is not really educating. And so we want to make sure that we get back to the foundation of education. And now here's the thing. We don't have control over the standardized testing mandates that come from the state. I get it, because these tests are made by the companies who supply them to the state, so they're providing what the state has asked for. We have to follow the mandates of the state, and so that's why I encourage you to advocate to the state representatives, because they're the one who set the rules on these testing policies. These big companies wouldn't create the test the way they do if there wasn't a demand from state lawmakers. So you might not have control over that. That's why I encourage you to speak up, talk to your representatives, let them know what's going on and how this is not working. But then after that, I'm going to ask you this. Think about this. The frequency of your progress monitoring is decided at the district level. Yes, progress monitoring is decided by your district, by your teaching and learning department, by the assistant superintendents and the superintendent. Those decisions are made at the district level. So there is a way to change the frequency of progress monitoring to ensure that you have as much time as you need to help the students engage in the lessons. But you have to speak up and you have to advocate, because a lot of times these things are pushed upon you as a school leader and pushed upon schools out of this out of this thinking that is best practice, or we're following evidence-based practice. Now, I get evidence-based practice. I'm all for implementing evidence-based practices, and I'm all for doing what's best. But there's a time when you will have to recognize that best practice is not always best for the students you are serving or for the moment that you are in with them. And I'll say it again. There are times when you have to recognize that best practice is not best for those students you are serving, the teachers you are serving, and the moment they are in. Best practice was captured by research and practiced over time and proven to be effective. True. But when things shift, you have to find ways to shift and adjust, and you have to reassess how you're implementing those practices to determine, do they still work? Is this still what's best for the teachers and the students simultaneously? And so I'm not against best practice, but I'm telling you, when shifts happen, then you have to shift with it, because sometimes they are no longer applicable to your situation or to the environment or to how the students you are dealing with learn, because we cannot try to make things fit that clearly do not fit anymore. And we also cannot focus on things that worked in the past when things have clearly shifted. I'm going to say that again. We cannot try to make things fit that don't fit anymore, and we can't focus on the strategies, the tactics, and the things of the past that may have worked but no longer serve us because things have shifted. So you have to be courageous. As a person of influence, as an igniter in your school, I want you to be. I need you to be. The students need you to be. The teachers you are serving and through your leadership need you to be courageous and speak up to the district admin and to your direct supervisor. And I'm not saying being rude. I'm not saying be insubordinate. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is speak up. There's a way to speak up, to have your voice heard, where you're not being rude, you're not being insubordinate, but you are stating the fact. Things have shifted and you need to shift with them. And so you have to advocate for your school, for your students, for the teachers you are serving. Because I'm going to tell you this, a lot of times, and I don't know about the makeup of your district, but I would tell you that there are districts where the people in teaching and learning or other district level positions may have an admin license, but have never led a school. They may have gone directly from the classroom to the T&L department, from the classroom to district level admin, because that was their path. And so you have to help them understand the leadership perspective that you have from being the school leader. You have to help them understand the leadership, how what they're saying applies to trying to get people to buy in, how that impacts the people as well as that you're leading, as well as the students. And it can't be, oh, just make them do it. Because some people who say that don't understand leadership. Yes, you can kind of make people do it, but not really. You can mandate something and they could just be insubordinate and not follow it. Or they could do it half-heartedly and their heart isn't in it, so it doesn't have the effect. Or they could half do it, period, and not have the effect. Or they could quit. And so making people do it is not good leadership. And so you have to help them understand what leadership is about and how it's about connecting with people and how those decisions are impacting people. But then also you have to help them understand your building, because they're serving multiple buildings in the district and they might not be familiar with the particulars of how the students in your building learn or how the teachers teach in your building. All they see is the walkthrough data. So you have to be courageous. You have to speak up. And so let me share with you the igniters perspective on data, so you can have a balanced perspective, so it doesn't appear for you to just be anti-data, anti-assessment, and all of that, because that's not it either. Because a lot of times when there's something going wrong in education, people often go to the opposite extreme. And I don't want you to do that as a leader. So here it is. The first thing is this: data informs but not drives. I want you to recognize that as an igniter, you understand that data gives you information, valuable information that you need, but it doesn't drive you. Because some people allow the data to drive what they do and drive the decision, but I want you to allow the data to inform you and give you information as you make a decision and not be driven by the decision. Then I want you to understand that there is more to the student and the teacher than what the data is indicating. The data paints a picture, but however, it only paints the picture in part. And so there's more to the data, more to the student than what is being reflected by the data you gathered. And then recognize this, and this is extremely important. The data is not the sole factor in your decision making. A lot of people say, well, the data says this, so this is what we need to do. Again, it informs you. It shouldn't be the sole factor, because if it's the sole factor, it's going to lead you down a path of making mistakes that then you will have to go down a path of trying to correct, and you might not have that time to correct those mistakes that you think you do. So remember, data informs you, but it should never be the sole factor by which you make a decision. And you have to understand and recognize that there is more to the student, more to the teacher than what the data is indicating. Is only a part. And then understand this. Here's the other thing I want you to have as your perspective. There are multiple ways of collecting it. So don't get trapped into the one way. Don't get trapped into the one way. And we focus that on standardized testing and computerized testing and say that's only one way. But don't get trapped into any one way, because there are multiple ways of expression. Some people will, project-based learning is extremely good, but don't let that be the only way. Because the multiple ways you allow people to express and demonstrate mastery will allow you to see, one, if they've really mastered it, and two, you will find out which students are express their mastery in which way the best. And it's the same way with teacher evaluations. As you're gathering it, you have to recognize that there are different ways for them to express and show and be who they are as teachers. And you have to keep that in mind. Now, and I'm going to tell you this, as a kingdom educator, boom, the data helps direct your prayer life as you seek direction from God. Because with the information, now you know how to pray and seek direction. And I'm going to tell you, as a school leader and as a teacher, all the success I had was because of prayer. And I didn't pray blindly. I used the information that I received in order to pray to get the specific answers that I needed. And I believe if you have this perspective, it's going to help you lead from a hope-based perspective. And remember what I say about leading from a place of hope. One, it is one of the best perspectives to have when you are leading, but also it is this. Hope-based leadership is solutions-oriented. It aligns your positive expectations with strategy and executable actions, as well as your words. It's not just, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. It's you aligning your words with your strategy. And so when you are analyzing data and when you are gathering it, you want to be strategic and intentional to allow it to inform you, but also be strategic and intentional not to allow it to take up too much time away from students engaging in the instruction and teachers facilitating the learning. If that happens, like I said earlier, your instructional system is out of alignment. And you want to make sure that you get things back in alignment. Take this opportunity to get things back in alignment, to advocate against over-assessing, so that as we end this school year and go into the next, We have this fresh, healthy system ready for students to learn and not trying to push, let's catch up because of learning loss. We analyze, we figure out where they are. We spend most of our time engaging them in the material. We assess along the way to make sure they're mastering, and we keep it moving. And we do not overemphasize state tests because school is not about a state test. It's about mastering the skill that kids will have to demonstrate when there's not on a computer, when they're not reading a story problem. They're going to have to critically think to figure stuff out and use what they're learning. So that's what I have for you today. I want you to put in the comments, or you can DM me on whichever platform you're watching this. Let me know how this information has helped you, and how has it shifted your perspective as you are a person of influence regarding data, and how you're going to use it. Are you going to advocate to your district level admin who control the progress monitoring? Are you going to advocate to the state level people who control the state assessments? Are you going to speak up for those you're leading? Now, I want to invite you to dig deeper with me. On May 2nd, I will be hosting a 5-day challenge. This is for my Kingdom educators. This is called the Kingdom Educators 5-Day Igniter Challenge. You already know I'm an Igniter of Champion Leaders. And so this 5-day challenge is all about how you can demonstrate and live out your kingdom assignment in education without being religious or judgmental or putting Bibles on your desk or anything like that. There is a way for you to simply know how to hear God, speak his wisdom in a meeting, outside of a meeting, in a classroom, outside of a classroom, in a way that's impactful and brings kingdom solutions to your school and district. This chasing your tail thing of trying to figure out what to do with our own strength and our own knowledge will not help us rebuild or build an educational system that benefits the students and the teachers. The solutions we need, God has them. And as a kingdom person, as a believer assigned to education, you have the unique opportunity to hear the voice of God and to simply say it. I believe that educators right now, you are like the Josephs. How Joseph was in Egypt and he was able to have insight and discern the vision that the Pharaoh had, and then had the wisdom to say, look, we need to store up things during time of plenty so that we will be sustained during the time of famine. I believe that God has uniquely gifted you to hear him, to give strategy, to help your schools and your district navigate through the shifts that are occurring in education. Just like I said, what was best practice and worked before might not apply right now because things have shifted. And so we need supernatural answers, and they will only come from a supernatural God, and they will only be delivered to people who have an ear to hear. So in the Kingdom Educators Challenge, I'm going to ignite you to hear the voice of God for your school, and so you can stay focused on igniting the roots by the power of God and by the wisdom of God to help facilitate change and building a system in your district that makes educators feel fulfilled, felt understood, and want to stay, and meets the needs of the kids at the same time. So registration is open right now. It just opened today. Monday, May 2nd, the 5-day challenge begins. Go to jamalmax.org/kingdomedu so that you can be a part of this challenge. This is going to be a life-changing, life transformation challenge. And I'm going to tell you, this is the opportunity for you to see me in I want to say in rare form, in the purest form that I am, because you guys know I love talking about leadership and strategic leadership, but now I get to talk to you in plain language as a kingdom ambassador and share with you my gifting for activating people in the supernatural. And so because this is the time I get to be all of who I am and pour into you in your assignment as an educator. So you don't want to miss this prophetic moment. I'm going to put it up here one more time. It is a Kingdom Educators 5-Day Igniter Challenge. You want to register. JamalMaxim.org/kingdom.edu. I'm sorry, JamalMaxim.org/kingdom.edu, so that you can be a part of this 5-day challenge. I'm going live every day, teaching you how to ignite change, how to live out your assignment as a kingdom person in education without being religious and without hiding who you really are. It's time out for that. You can't be the light if you are blending in with the darkness. All right, so that's it for this week. I'm going to see you. For those of you who are on the live audio app Clubhouse, we're going to have this discussion and dig a little more into how we need to have the perspective of analyzing data, how we need to be informed, because scripture says we need to be abreast of the facts, but allowing our decisions to be led by Holy Spirit. And so join me on Clubhouse in about 10 minutes. And we will see you there. And for those of you who are not on Clubhouse, I look forward to seeing you next week. And I look forward to seeing you in the challenge. All right. Bye-bye.